Hi everyone, my name is Vicky.
I'm Caitlin. And I'm Samantha.
And CJ's on the camera. And we're all part of the Savannah Speedway committee. Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about building your Savannah Speedway car. We're going to teach you some tips and some tricks, and we'll tell you everything you need to get started. Before you get started though, the first thing you need to do is make sure that your hair is up and your goggles are on. Now you're ready to go. The first thing you want to do is pick out a design for your car. The cars come as a block, and they come with 4 wheels and 4 axles. That's what comes in the kit. We're using maximum velocity cars, and everyone has to use the same car so that it's fair from the start. So what you'll use is everything that's in this kit. Samantha's going to talk to you a little bit about design options.
Okay, so as Miss Vicky said, you get a block. But it doesn't have to stay a block. You can cut it to be whatever shape you want, or you can go on the internet, pick a trace, and design it for your car. After that, you can paint it whatever color you want, add some sparkles, googly eyes, however you want to do it, go right ahead.
So for our car today, we're going to do a basic wedge design. It would be nice to use these templates. They're very fancy, they're easy to trace on the car. But to keep it simple and to maximize our aerodynamics, we're going to do the basic wedge. There's a couple of different ways that you can cut this wedge, and Caitlin's going to talk to you a little bit about cutting it.
Alright, so if you decided to find a pre-printed shape on the internet, this would be the time to trace it. But because we're doing the basic wedge, we're going to take a straight edge. And it's important to note on the bottom of your block, there is a short side and there is a long side. The long side is typically the front of the car, especially for the wedge design. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up the top corner in the back side of the car, and we're going to draw a diagonal line for our wedge. And this will be the line that guides us when we cut our car. So you can see I didn't put it all the way to the corner of the block because you do want to leave some meat around these little wheel wells. You don't want to get too close to these because when you tap your wheels in, you could potentially crack your car. So now that I've traced the design, I'm going to put it in this contraption, which is called a vise. And the vise is just going to hold it in place while I cut. So bear with me while I put it in place. Alright, and we'll be cutting today with a coping saw as well as a bandsaw. If you're using a coping saw, it's important to note you want to push away from yourself. Always cut away. And you're just going to push down. And continue all the way through the block. Alright, the other thing you can use to cut your car, this is called a bandsaw. Now, you may not have this at home, but be sure to check with your relatives, your neighbors, and whenever you're cutting anything, just do it under adult supervision, even with the little coping saw. Now, it's important to push everything away from yourself. You never want to pull, you never want to put your fingers under the blade. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate how to cut our wedge. That is our wedge.
So now that our car is cut, Samantha's going to talk to you a little bit about sanding. Sanding would be the next step for most of your car. If you wanted to add internal weights at this point, you could. And after Sam talks to you about sanding, we'll talk a little bit about weight placement.
Sanding. Now, if you've ever felt sandpaper, some is rougher than others. That's because they have different grits. The bigger the grit number, the finer it'll be. After your rough one, you can go to a smoother sandpaper to get a nice, smooth finish on your car. After you do that for some time, it'll be perfect for painting.
You can also use, if you have at home, or if you have a relative who has one, a Dremel tool, especially if you have intricate spots that need sanded. Sometimes it's difficult by hand. You can do it by hand, but it's a lot easier if you have a sanding tool of some kind. So if you have one, you can use it to smooth out any curves or angles that might be difficult by hand. We'll talk to you a little bit about weight placement before we go on to the painting. So now you've sanded your car, or if you want to add internal weights, it's right before you sand your car. There's all different types of weights that you can use for your car. There's weights like these that sit inside of the car. It's an entire piece that screws in. There's weights like these that you could just stick on the bottom. And there's weights like these that are internal. You can drill a hole and you can put them in. Now typically, you want all of your weight in the back. So one of the tricks that we'll teach you today is that a lot of people bake their block before they start cutting it. Why do they bake their block? Do you know why?
I do. I actually baked my own car. So when you bake your car, it dries up all of the moisture, and the moisture within the wood gives you a lot of extra weight. So if you bake the block, you're actually lightening it, and that way you can put more weight where you want it, because the maximum is 5.00. So it's all baked. Now I can put lots of weight in the back, and that's more weight than would have originally been in the front of the car.
Miss Katie,
Yes.
why do we want more weight in the back?
Well, cars with weight in the back generally go faster down the track because these are gravity cars. There's nothing propelling them forward except their own weight. So when you go down the hill, it kind of gives you a nice little push.
You mean it stores up potential energy at the top of the track, and when it's let go, it goes faster?
And releases all of that kinetic energy, correct?
That sounds like science. Okay, so if you wanted to put an internal weight inside of your car, it's fairly easy. That's usually the way we do it with most of our cars. You would take a drill bit. Most of the weights are about 3/8 of an inch. You could use a drill bit or a wood boring tool. If you use a wood boring tool, it's probably going to go through the entire car, so then you'd have to putty both sides of the car. So you could very simply drill where you wanted your weight to be, and then you would put your weight in your car. These can be cut with a saw, or you could buy the little pieces and put them together. You'd put it inside the car, and then you would wood putty over where you put the weight, and no one would ever see it. The wood putty dries, you sand it down, and you're ready for paint. So a lot of what I've read about the weight is that the best place to put it is so that your car can balance 1 inch in front of your rear wheel well. Does it have to be exactly precise? I don't know. I don't know that it makes a ton of difference, but that's a lot of what I've read is that's where it should be. A lot of times with a lot of these cars, depending on the design you pick, the design kind of dictates where you can put your weight. The wedges, you're going to put it all in the back, but some of the designs, this one for instance, we had to put the weight in from the back this way. So some of them, depending on your design, that dictates where your weight is going to go. Okay, now we're going to talk about painting.
All right. So when you paint your car, make sure that the wheels aren't in it. I've seen it a lot of times. You don't want to paint your axles, your wheels, because that makes it a little bit harder for the wheels to turn, and you could get stuck on the track. So you're going to take your block, rest it on 2 pencils, kind of lift it up off the ground. And I like to use spray paint for my cars. It's just easier, but you can use brush paint, do whatever design you like. So Vicki has set it up for me.
You can use an acrylic, any kind of acrylic paint you would like, and if you don't like the finish after you've sprayed it or brushed it, you can always go over it with a spray clear, like a polyurethane or a UV coating or whatever you'd like in a spray clear to kind of jazz it up and make it really shiny. Like Caitlin was saying, never paint your wheel wells. I've actually seen a lot of people, they cut tape and they cover their wheel wells so that no paint gets in it, so that it's wood, so it's a little easier for running. You don't get that gumminess. Okay, if you're going to use a glitter or any kind of stick-ons, little balls, little diamonds, little anything like that, you have to make sure that they're not going to come off on the track, If you use a glitter, make sure you heavily seal it so that it's not on the track, it's not in your wheel wells, and it's not on your neighbor's car because they will not be happy with you. I think that's it for paint. So putting on the wheels, you have to use the wheels that come in the kit. You have to use the axles that come in the kit. You cannot buy colored wheels, you cannot cut your wheels. The most you can do is sand any burrs off of your wheels and your axles.
What's a burr?
What's a burr?
It's
Well-
kind of nice out today. I'm not cold.
You're not cold? You don't have a burr today?
I don't have a burr.
Okay, so a lot of times the prefab car wheels, they have a little nubby on them where they were in the mold, where it was poured in the mold, and that's a burr. These newer ones that we've been using this year are beautiful. Funny story, some of the tips and tricks are that you can take your axles and you could sand them and polish them. You could take this very fine sandpaper, cut it in strips and wet it, and you can use like a drill gun and you can sand and polish your axles. So this is something that I typically do every year on my car to make it go a little bit faster. So of course this year we got these new kits, and of course I sanded my axles, and someone else in my family chose not to. And I'll let her tell you the story. But I did all the little tips and tricks to make my car faster, I'll just say that much.
Alright, so generally as a rule, I never go for speed. I'm one who does the fancy, the crazy. This car was one that I did last year. This is my stiletto shoe. And this year I decided to be a little representative of myself. This is the Caitlin car. So I took a basic wedge and just put my name on it, painted it. It was fabulous. And this is the car that my mom did this year. It's got all of its weight in the back. It's aerodynamic. She cut the wheels and made it look great. And she also did all of the work on her wheels as well as her axles. This car was designed to be fast. This one was designed to be beautiful. However, as fate would have it, this car may have beaten this car down the track when we tested them. So that goes to show.
So sometimes luck plays a little role in it too. Caitlin chose to make her car pretty, and it ended up being faster. Not by a lot, it was about 1/100 of a second, but it was faster. So when you make a car, you should really decide, do you want to have a fun car? Do you want to try to have a fast car? But I think the most important thing when you're making your car is to make it your own. You don't want, your mom, your dad, your aunt or uncle to build your car for you. I think it's very important that you guys get to touch the tools and you get to do the work yourself. It may open up a new love in you that you didn't know you had. Who knows, you may grow up to be a woodworker or a carpenter or an engineer of any kind like that, where this is something that you really love to do. I personally really love to work with wood. I like to build stuff. I like to alter stuff. If I don't have something I need, I like to make it. So that's really, really important when you're making your car, is to learn some of these new skills. And I think some of the science behind it is very important. It's not all about making your car and making it the fastest. I want there to be other stuff that you take away from it. So remember that. You can make a fun car, you can make a fast car, but it's important to make a car. And while we're all kind of trapped inside, what better time than to make a car?
It's also important to note that there's not just a prize for first, second, and third place. There are prizes for best design, most patriotic, most Girl Scout. So even if you don't win fastest car, if you really make a great creative car, you can win those awards as well.
Caitlin's car would have won luckiest this year. So before we finish up, I'm just going to show you how to do the wheels, and then you can go crazy making your car with whatever grown-up you have around that you'd like to make your car with. So the axles and the wheels, they just slide together. It's very simple. They go in the slot. You want to keep them straight. There are tools you can buy to do this, but you don't need a tool. Some go in easier than others, but you really have to push them in. A lot of times I'll use against the side of a table, and I will push them in like that. And that's all you do to get the wheels in. I don't have mine all the way in, but you want to allow just enough space for your tires to move. You want to allow about 1/8 of an inch on all of your tires. Now you could do tests on a plastic table, on a sheet of cardboard, anything you have laying around. You can test and see if your car goes straight or not. If it doesn't go straight, you can adjust your wheels a little bit to try to get it to go straight. That's another little
I'm ready
trick.
to put my wheels in.
You're gonna help me with the mallet?
Yep.
They can be difficult to get in, but you want to get them straight and leave about 1/8 of an inch, okay? Now, the last trick we'll leave you with is before you race, you are allowed to use dry graphite. You're not allowed to use liquid graphite or anything like that, but the dry graphite you can use. So after your car is completed and you're ready to go before race day, you want to take some graphite. Graphite is your friend. Everyone should use it. And you want to put a little in your wheels, a little in your wheel wells, and it really makes your wheels go faster. Okay? We'll let you see, we'll give you a shot of all of our cars. And I think that's it. Anything else that we didn't talk about? We didn't talk about the files. You can use them while you're sanding. They're
harder than sandpaper. If your car has a lot of ridges from cutting with your saw, you can use the harder files before you use the sandpaper.
So, and your car can never be more than 5 ounces. Like Caitlin said before, you can use a little scale, a little digital kitchen scale. A lot of times you can go to the post office and they're happy to weigh it for you, but it cannot race if it is over 5.0 ounces.
That's with your paint, your wheels, your weights, that's everything. We weigh it before it races and it's got to be that number or less.
Anything else? You can reach out to us at council if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to help you. You can ask for anyone on the Savannah Speedway committee, and we'll answer any questions you have. So good luck with your cars. If you didn't do a Savannah Speedway this year, I hope that we see you at one next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here are our cars. The best car in the bunch is this pickle car.
I don't know. I think the Caitlin car is
No.
pretty fabulous.
Beautiful. Look at that detail.